Welcome back to KC Cares, Kansas City's nonprofit voice, telling the stories of Kansas City nonprofits and the people behind them, generously underwritten by the UN Marion Kauffman Foundation. I'm Bobby Keys.
And I'm Ruth Baum-Biggis, and we're together but apart. Even though this epidemic has had challenges, innumerable challenges, it's been great because we get to help showcase the good things that are going on and the good stories, because there is so much. And we are honored to have with us former Kansas City, Missouri Mayor Sly James. Welcome.
Hi, how are you today?
We're doing great, and we're excited to catch up with you about Turn the Page, which is what you started in your wisdom. Let's refresh for our listeners. Turn the Page. Tell us what it's all about, what you're trying to accomplish.
Turn the Page KC is an initiative that we started in late 2011 to address a problem that was pointed out to me at my very first U.S. Conference of Mayors meeting in Baltimore that summer. The problem is third grade reading proficiency across this entire country is at a ridiculously low level. Third grade reading proficiency is directly correlated to bad and good outcomes. Bad outcomes being more touches with the law in a negative way, more likely to be incarcerated, more likely to die early, less likely to make as much money, et cetera, et cetera. The one thing that we know is that up to third grade children learn to read, and from third grade on, they are reading to learn. And so if you haven't learned to read well, then you're not going to learn well. And we see that happening over and over and over again. So we looked at Kansas City and the school districts that touch in whole or in part, and we found a 33.8% reading proficiency rate in third grade across on average. Determined that was unacceptable and set about trying to do something about it. Thus, we created Turn the Page, which is a collective impact model, working with others in a collaborative way in order to try to increase third grade reading proficiency. And we've been at it since 2012. We believe we have the percentage up now, less than our goal of 70%, but up to about 55%.
That's amazing.
So far, so good. We still have a ton of work to do. Frankly, when you make the move that we made, we obviously were able to address the easiest issues early. The tougher issues are much more ingrained and harder to root out. Poverty being one, the lack of parent awareness about brain development between 0 and 5, the 30 million word gap for children born into poverty versus middle class circumstances, the lack of high quality universal pre-K, which means once again we perpetuate the problems of poverty and disadvantage on the same populations on which they have been visited before. Those are the issues that we still have to overcome, and it's a difficult thing to do, and we have to do it as a society.
So how did you start hitting this? Bobby, go ahead. So how'd you jump in and do this? I mean, it's great to say we're going to, shift the paradigm. It's an issue. Go.
We had some help. We had some guidance. I learned about it from Ralph Smith with the grade level reading group of Kauffman Foundation. He had all the data information. We used him as an advisor. We saw some things that were being done and adopted some of those, and we created our own. But the first thing we did was we found out what was happening on the ground and how we could be helpful and where we could fill in gaps. And we put together a tremendous board of people to work on this issue, and it's worked out quite well.
And so it's getting books into those kids' hands. Is it having adults who read to them? What are those actual steps?
Well, there's three basic pillars that we have. One is, well, four actually. One is school attendance, so you have to have kids actually show up in school. The other is summer learning. We know that when children are out of school during the summer and not focused on learning, that they experience what we call the summer slide. So we worked on the summer slide. Another pillar that we had was to make sure that children had readers, tutors, people who would sit and read with them, and certainly then that they have books that are age appropriate for them to read. So we set about on all those things somewhat simultaneously, but again, it's a collective impact model. So whereas we started initially with our own group of readers called page turners, we started working with Literacy Casey and others who have readers and collaborated with that. Businesses will adopt a school, or individuals will have a child that they read to once a week. And it's an extremely good thing because it cuts across socioeconomics, it cuts across racial, cuts across gender barriers, and teaches kids that you don't have to look like me to care about me, that kind of thing. And it also teaches adults the same thing. But we worked with the Upper Room and other organizations during the summer to make sure that they had resources and people and books and all sorts of stuff and activities so that they would have things to keep kids busy in summer slide, avoid the summer slide. We did a mobility conference, a discipline conference to talk about kids being in school and the problems that are associated with kids being in school. And every summer, except for this summer, we have a big deal with 1,100, 1,500 kids at the Sprint Center where we entertain them with reading and songs and various things and give them books on their way out. So there's a lot of things that are going on. But again, it's all working together with others in order to make it happen. And we found some good partners, and we've worked hard on it.
What is some of the improvement that you've seen with some of the kids that you've tracked? What does that success look like? Well,
I'm not exactly sure what you mean, but the main goal is to increase their reading proficiency, and that's measured. But, part of the improvement, one thing you just have to recognize the very basic issues. There's a lot of kids that do not have books in the home. And we know that there's a correlation between reading proficiency and staying out of trouble and books in the home, as opposed to simply television. There's a lot of kids that come from circumstances where they are those kids who are the 30 million word behind kids at the age of 3. So we try to find ways to ameliorate that. But the best thing for that is high-quality pre-K, which unfortunately we do not have in this city on a universal basis. We find that kids are able to, when they have an adult that they're able to see on a weekly basis, and that they enjoy their company and they read and they look forward to it, that they tend to behave better in school and to be happier. We know from common experience, the kids who feel that they are somehow different than other kids may act out in some way, and a lot of times that acting out is a negative. But when those kids know that there is an opportunity to improve, and they do improve, then that those periods of acting out are less and less common. But again, I'll go back to something I'm going to continue to harp on. A lot of the things that we do at third grade and trying to improve third grade reading could be eliminated if we had high-quality pre-K for everybody, and if we would pay attention to brain development between the ages of 0 and 5. But the mission of Turn the Page KC has been focused like a laser on third grade reading proficiency because it is a huge issue. It is a predictor of success in some ways. It's a predictor of how many prison cells will be needed in the next 15 to 20 years. All sorts of things.
And that's got to be tough, during this time when, with everything going on with COVID, how has that affected your model and the reach and your programs? What does that look like now?
we've made a number of resources, ideas, and concepts available to folks on our website. We want our parents to be active listeners and to engage in play that they can engage with kids in their home that will help them be good listeners. We have provided books to various locations where school lunches and food are picked up so kids can have books. We're working on getting more and more books in order to provide to kids. We've made resources available to parents on our website about things they can do and how they can do them in a way that is beneficial to their children. So we're trying to do as much as we can virtually, but we're also trying to put hardcover, real paper books into people's and families' hands so that their children can continue to read and grow during the summer.
How can we, the public, help you in this shift you've had to make?
Well, I think first and foremost, the public can recognize how important third grade reading is. If the public would look at third grade reading the same way they'd look at their paycheck if they only got 33 and an 8% of that, we know what would happen if that happened. We want them to think in the same terms about what it means for children. I'm amazed sometimes at how the public seems so unimpressed by such a vital and important statistic. So that's one thing that they can certainly do that would be helpful. Another thing that they can do is they can find ways to make sure that their kids are reading. It doesn't always have to be a book. They can read a sign. They can read something on a newspaper. They can read a comic book. They just need to keep reading during the period of time. They can become a tutor, basically a home literacy coach with their child. They can make sure they have books. They can go to the website, and I've read Our Home Kansas City on our website, so a virtual story time. The main thing for readers and people and people listening to the program here that they can do is become aware and understand how important it is for kids to be able to read proficiently at third grade and to understand all of the steps that need to take place between 0 and third grade for that to happen, and start understanding that we need to take better care of our kids in terms of providing them with the resources and the attitudes and the processes that are necessary for them to have a chance to compete in this society. So those are some things that can happen, but, from a practical matter, we make books available. We need to make sure that parents know how to get those books, and they can always call Turn the Page KC, and we can go check our website. They can check in on the website and find some online activities that are helpful, etc. So I think those are some of the things. I mean, you don't always have to have a computer, and a lot of people in poverty areas and underserved areas don't, but you can do the same thing with a smartphone if you have a smartphone.
Oh, yeah, that's a good point. I have 4 daughters, and it's always like a game for us. That's one of the things that I always try and do is just make it fun. And even one of the things is like even having them read to me like I'm a kid, like teach me, and then it'll completely flip the script. But having them read signs or I spy a word with the letter I, things like that in the car that you can play. So
yeah, all sorts of things. It doesn't always have to be teacher at the blackboard with a ruler in hand for kids to learn. And sometimes that may actually be an impediment. The real thing is make it fun, and wherever you can, show them why it's important that they read. And the one thing that we can always do is praise them for doing it right. Kids will crave attention, they crave love. And if you praise them for doing something, then they will probably do it more because they like getting praise. And there's a good way and a bad way to correct the child. And sometimes I think we always want to do something for them or tell them how to do it. Help them figure it out. Don't do it for them. Help them figure out how to do it themselves so that they can become critical thinkers and lifelong learners. and understand that there's a process to make a decision, or a process to figure out a problem.
Yeah, I agree, because a lot of people, they praise the wrong things. I've always praised the effort, right? Good job, trying. You may not have gotten it perfect, but you tried, you attempted it. And that's always made them want to try harder, as opposed to, setting them up for failure by praising the end result. Like, anyways, we can go down that rabbit hole, but I love what you said. That's perfect.
Well, we just need to do those things. And for parents and folks who may be listening, but don't have a third grader, this applies to you as well. The bottom line is, and I'll tell you, I understand the absolute value of speaking to children, young children, talking to them, not goo goo gaga. That's all great and dandy, but actually understanding that they will comprehend words, and understanding that by the time the child is 3 years old, their brains are close to being 85% developed. And that we always talk about kids as being little sponges, but we seldom water the sponge. So when my grandchildren were born, and even when my own children were born, we talked to them all the time. And I didn't know why, but we did. We talked to them all the time. We read to them all the time. We played games with them. But even when I had my grandson and he was an infant and I was carrying him around, I walked to the refrigerator and we talk about what's in the refrigerator. Hey, you want to see what a strawberry tastes like? Now, his mother didn't like that, so she thought, well, yeah, how do you know he doesn't have an allergy? I said, if a child that young has an allergy to strawberries, he's going to have a story life. But the bottom line is, treat them like adults. Talk to them, talk to them, talk to them. Talk to them about the same type of stuff. Talk to them about anything. Point stuff out. This is the rug. This is the table. Hey, well, let's go to the refrigerator and see what's to eat in there. Hey, want to try, taste a little bit of this ham, or whatever the case may be. Just talk to them.
I'm coming to your house. I want to know what's in your fridge.
Well, there's a lot of stuff in there now.
And with that, folks, it's turnthepagekc.org. You all have done incredible things, and this was so insightful of you as mayor, and we're thrilled that it continues and that you're so engaged with it. Please, 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 folks, reach out. You can be doing things now, and everybody can do this no matter where you are. Former Mayor, thank you so much for your time.
And thank you for having me, and thank you for getting the word out. We need to do this for our children. It's extremely important. I just look at it from a very selfish standpoint. The kids today are going to be taking care of the old folks tomorrow, and if they don't have the skills to do it, then we're all going to be hurt. So thank you very much.
Inspired by you and Marion Kauffman, the Kauffman Foundation believes that every person, regardless of their background, should have the opportunity to learn, to take risks, and to own their success. Working together with our Kansas City community and beyond, we take on approaches that break down barriers, providing people with the necessary skills throughout life to make or take a job and ultimately give back to their community. By listening to the communities we serve, tap into our learnings and relationships, and bring everyone together to build and support programs that improve education, boost entrepreneurship, and help Kansas City thrive. Learn more at Kauffman.org.
COVID-19 is a severe lung infection. Trust the American Lung Association for science-based public health information, especially for the 36 million Americans who live with lung disease. We have resources to protect your lung health, access expertise from medical professionals, and peer-to-peer support through our online communities. Visit lung.org for daily updates or call 1-800-LUNG-USA.